On today's show, did Ford just drop it like it's hot? Because I've got photos of a brand new 2024 Ford Maverick that's been lowered from the factory, and you're going to want to check these out. But if you're new to my channel, before we get into those photos, my name is David Boyd. I'm an auto journalist, and I love all things lowered. I really do. Like, this brings me back to my old school days of the 80s when we were doing this to S10s and Rangers and Mitsubishis and Nissan hardbodies. We were doing this stuff. We were putting big sound systems in these things and just having the time of our lives. And these photos sort of take me back. So let's get into these photos and we will go from there. So there we go. You guys don't want to see me. You want to see the Maverick. And this, as you can see, is a properly lowered Maverick. Now, it's not scraping the ground by any means. Like, that would be a little too crazy. But everything I can see of this vehicle, and I'm going through these photos with you just like for the first time. So I'm pointing out stuff. You guys may see something in the comments. Let me know what I might have missed. But this thing looks definitely, it's not sitting as normally high as the normal Maverick pickup truck sits. This is definitely lowered. And I seen some of this stuff when I was in SEMA. 2 years ago, I was covering the Jay Leno, where they were doing a electric vehicle for Jay Leno, and they had some of this stuff sitting out there. And I covered some of this stuff. And I also have been talking about a year and a half ago, the idea that Ford might be doing an ST version of their Maverick. Could you imagine a hot version of this thing making a lot of horsepower? A lot of horsepower and all-wheel drive. That would bring those Focus guys back, those Fiesta guys. Might bring them back into the fold with Ford. And if they would ever do a manual transmission, I know it's not ever going to happen, but could you imagine all-wheel drive, little sporty lowered thing, an ST version with a manual transmission, a little 6-speed in that? That would speak to my heart, and that would also might win over some Subaru guys. Just saying. But let's get into these photos. As you can see here, it's definitely a Lariat trim. You can tell from there it says Lariat. Nothing crazy out front. As you can see, I mean, it just looks pretty much like a normal Maverick. You definitely can see where the rear splitter here. So they're trying to keep all the air away from the front end. The Maverick is about fuel economy. It's about having a truck-like, a unibody vehicle that can do some truck things. So it's a box on wheels. So you got to get all the air away from it as possible there. But overall, look at this. I mean, those wheels look proper under those things. Now, I don't know what size wheels they're putting under this. None of the photos got us that clear of an image. But, could you imagine putting some 18, 19-inch wheels under this thing and then buying one of these from the factory, just taking it right to your local tire store, getting some deep dish wheels and put under it, some little thinnies putting under that. Oh, that would be pretty freaking awesome. But as we'll go through a couple more of these photos, this is more of a side view of it. And you can definitely see bad boy's been lowered. And it looks proper. And this, like I said, this come out of the one of the Ford testing facilities there in Michigan. So everything according to our spy photographer, it is totally, it's Ford doing their best to figure out whether they can do something in this market. And what my spy photographer said in the email is said, hey, we caught these pair of lowered Mavericks testing in Dearborn. Is Ford really considering the revival of the street truck? Ford has never really ventured into the truck market like GM did in the early 2000s. Well, GM did the extreme pickups, they were way late for that. When GM was playing around with this style of vehicle, they were well past the lowered. People were starting to get into lifted vehicles, and they didn't want those lower things. But in the late 80s, 80, I had an 89 S10 that was dropped. We just cut the springs like idiots back then because we didn't know any better. Thing rode horrible, but this thing's going to ride proper. But the idea that maybe they're getting back into Ford wanting to kind of go all in with this. Oh man, it is exciting. But as you can see here, thing looks great. Obviously this blurred out where it came from, but you do see a nice little Bronco in the background as well there. This thing just I can't say it enough. I'm excited by it, and this is sincere. I'm excited to see Ford potentially taking on some lower trims. Now, we see the back of this thing. Definitely says all-wheel drive back here. It's got manufacturer's plates on there. It's got a hitch on it, too, which, I mean, I guess that might be part of the deal, right? Ford, people still want to tow with these things. So could you imagine they drop it, and they're playing around with being able to tow still? Because when I dropped a vehicle back in the day, towing was I did not care about towing, but we live in modern times and we got modern problems. But nothing else really kind of stands out about this other than the fact that it just looks good, and it's Ford sincerely testing out this. Now, do you think we're going to see this? Let me know in the comments below. Do you think will Ford actually give us something fun like this? Will they will we get a lowered vehicle like this? And Are they going to do an ST version? I really do think they will. I think they'll do a hot engine in this thing, a nice tune to it, and crank out the smiles. So as you can see here, I'm smiling because I'm happy. So whether it be two-wheel drive, four-wheel drive, or these badass Mavericks, oh man, I can't wait to drive. This has been your All Terrain Nation. I'm your host, David Boyd, and we're out. Peace, everybody. Love y'all. Damn, I can't wait to drive this. Oh wow.